previous meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. We have quite a few pieces of legislation coming before us this afternoon. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids and/or self-perform work to replace the Greystone HVAC control system and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. We have a few HVAC upgrades today. This one's specific to the Greystone HVAC system. The system is well over 20 years old, and it's the system that was put in is a one director, one vendor, so it has to take a special laptop by a certain vendor to come in. The upgrades are no longer valid, so we are going to go to a cloud-based system and work with Akron Energy Systems, we've done across the city. It's going to be a lot more friendly of a system. We can access without bringing in a technician. We can monitor here, whether it's here, whoever has access, or out at building maintenance, or Akron Energy if that's the case. So we're asking to upgrade that system. With that, consent would be fine, but I'll take any questions.
Okay. All righty. Any questions from any committee members? Any questions from council members? Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is the ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids to replace the HVAC system for the laboratory at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is an upgrade to the HVAC system to the lab out the water treatment facility. It's a special system. We are going to be replacing all the air handler, all the filtration systems, also with the control system out there.
Okay. All righty. Any questions from committee members? Any question from council members? Seeing none, what's your pleasure?
Consent is fine.
Consent. Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for placement on the consent agenda.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids and/or self-perform work for facility improvements at the Municipal Service Center and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. As we discussed in the Greystone piece, this is basically the same thing. It's a 20-year-old system with one vendor that can service it, so we're going to upgrade it to the cloud-based energy management HVAC control system, and consent would be fine.
Okay. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council? Can I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee after publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts to repair defective sidewalks and drive aprons throughout the city of Akron and to address the ADA accessibility issues at city parks and community centers as part of its City Sidewalks 2023 project and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. This is our annual sidewalk program. This year, we have approximately about 300 addresses on the list currently. That's of last week because people, they submit these. This will take care of about 200 of those addresses, some going back as far as 2021, so it clears up 2021 requests, and the request that also came in 22, but does not clear up everything in 22. So like I said, it's going to leave us with about 100 after this project's done. This is for not only residential, but also it is for commercial properties, and then we will address, they will be assessed, which is a small portion. It's probably 25%. The homeowner or the business owner. Business owners pay 100%, let me be clear. The residential pays about 25%. If unfortunately a tree caused this damage, the owner will not be assessed for the sidewalk.
Okay. Is there a way you can get us a list of the sidewalks that will be serviced?
Sure.
Okay,
I
thank
have
you.
numbers per ward, but we can get you the
Yeah.
individual list.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions from committee members? Ms. Holland?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Luddle, just for clarity, these are prioritized in terms of when these requests came in?
Yes, we recently changed that. We did prioritize if they were orders to comply, but we didn't think that was equitable, so as the requests come in, we're trying to fulfill them. And we're trying to stay within that year or not too much longer. So we went through, as you remember last year, and we did some of where we shaved down the sidewalk, and it wasn't received very well by the owners. They thought they were getting a brand-new sidewalk, so we're not going to do any of that unless the tree could be saved by saving it down. Then we will work with the homeowner, and we will still do that. But unfortunately, sometimes those trees cause damage beyond that, where you can't shave off more than a couple inches because then the sidewalk is not stable.
Very good, thank you.
1 second. Quick question, Chris. So these addresses come to us because the resident calls in or the business owner calls in. What about those sidewalks that maybe they're in front of a vacant house and no one's calling it in? How do you know about those sidewalks?
Typically, adjacent property owners send those in.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And then if they do not want to be assessed, unfortunately, sometimes we have to send an order to comply, especially if it's a business. You have to take care of it.
Okay. Okay. Councilman Malik and Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Luddle. When you send the list, could you send the full list of the 300 and then include which are going to be slated for the 2023 program?
Sure.
Thank you. And just kind of going off Councilman Mosley's point, you know, I appreciate the diligence that we have on tackling these. I know that sometimes, you know, an address will be an issue for like 6 months or a year before someone calls it in. And so then by the time we get out and try to shave it down, you know, it's already escalated. But I think I've seen a couple instances where the shaving down was helpful. So I appreciate at least we tested out an idea.
Yes.
Maybe there are places where it'll work in the future.
Mr. Lombardo?
Thank you. Chris, I'm just confused. Orders to comply. So the homeowner who's calling in for the sidewalk replacement, but what does orders to comply mean? The city is sending them an order to comply? Well, they're the ones that are requesting some compliance.
In order to comply, almost as we're forcing them to do an action. So if it is a vacant home and the sidewalks need repaired, and the owner says, how can we get this repaired? And we send a notice to whoever's registered paying the taxes or not paying the taxes. And they won't do anything. They won't respond. Then we'll send an order to comply. You must comply with repairing this sidewalk. It's like anything else. If they have a broken water line on their property and they won't fix it, or a sewer line, we have to send them an order to comply. If they have a building code issue that they will not fix, we have to send them an order to comply. Okay. We don't like to take that action, because then we're forcing something on them. But right. Sometimes you have to take that action to get them to do something.
But when the homeowner has that tree on their lawn strip, you know, and that caused the upheaval of the sidewalk, that's not an order to comply situation because they're saying?
No.
Okay.
No. All right. Orders to comply out of these, however, what did I say? We have 200 addresses. I bet you we don't have 4 orders to comply.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very small number, a couple percent.
It's the vacant house situation.
Maybe not even that, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Luddle, I think Mr. Councilman Lombardo asked part of my question, but my other part is, if a person cannot afford to do this, do we have any funds for indigent individuals who lack the ability to do this major repair? Because it could be a danger, a safety hazard for individuals that are disabled or people that are just walking on the sidewalk or wherever near their home.
Well, we have a couple different scenarios. If the tree caused the damage, then we do not charge the property owner. That's one. Okay. And that's a lot of these have been caused by tree damage. And then they are not, and then like I said, the assessment rate is about 25% of the cost to repair the sidewalk. And that could be put on their property taxes and spread out over 5 years. So it's a very small amount to be assessed to get these fixed. But a lot of them are because of the tree damage and they're not charged. And this is usually typically the property owner requests these. So we don't get a lot of requests if people don't feel like they could fulfill the paying for the sidewalk.
But then if it goes unreported and it's still a hazard to the community or whoever's walking that sidewalk, and you find out about it, what happens then?
Then we would try to work with the property owner to get them fixed, yes.
Okay. What would be, if you could just think off the top of your head, the average amount we're talking about, roughly?
Well, it depends on how many slabs have to be repaired. Let's say they're only replacing 2 slabs, then their portion may only be $100.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about a very nominal fee then. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chris, one final question. On here it says includes $50,000 to address ADA access. Where do we get that number from? What if it's more?
Well, we do an average every year to comply with basically the crosswalks in the corners, and there's no assessment there because we own it. So we put $50,000 in there to try to keep up, and we typically pick those out when we're doing our resurfacing program.
Okay, all righty. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Connor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Little, I just have a quick question. You know, we know that our city is full of much beautiful, older, big trees that destroy sidewalks, but when we take the tree out, do we offer to put in one of the newer, slow-growing ones, or do we just leave it bare? Is that the homeowner's choice?
Well, I'd have to say, thank you for that question. I should have mentioned this, but John Malish, our arborist, has been very prescriptive with the tree program to identify every lawn strip's a little bit different in the city, well, in neighborhoods. Some are a lot wider than others. So yes, not only is he looking what tree's best suited for that size of lawn strip, but he's also he's identifying what side of the street our electrical lines are on, because we all know it may have not damaged the sidewalk, but it grew up into the wires, and then, you know, with
Yeah, the tree's decimated.
you said that, but yes, they do some trimming. So we're going to make sure it grows out and not up, with, you know, so the ones on the one side of the street may not grow as high, but they may be a fuller tree. But yes, he's being very prescriptive not to put a tree that's going to damage the sidewalk in the future.
Thank you so much. I know we've all been working on the tree canopy, so that was the purpose.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Can I get a motion for suspension of rules?
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Our next piece is an ordinance authorizing the service director and/or purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of the Akron Fulton Airport runway in identifier lights and declaring an emergency. Mr. Leto?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, we've done multiple upgrades, and this is one of the last ones. So the runway identifier lights, as the planes are coming in or taking off, there's runway lights at the end that flash rapidly. And they've really been held together with, I hate to say this, duct tape and, you know, bubble gum. So we did apply for an ODOT grant. We did receive it. We're going to receive $136,000 from ODOT. Our portion is 5% of that, which is about $28,000. So we're looking forward to getting this project done. And this will be the last project as far as the lights go down at the Akron Fulton Airport.
Okay, all right. Any questions from committee members? Any questions from council members? Can I get a motion for suspension of rules?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing the service director and/or purchasing agent to enter into a contract, bless you, or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of the, did I just read that? Or it's another one?
This
Same
is
one,
a
okay,
different one.
same one, okay, I'm sorry. Akron Fulton Airport Taxiway R Rehabilitation Project and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There again, this is one of the last pieces that we have to rehab. This is the taxiway that parallels all our hangars. So this is about 1,500 feet of pavement. They'll do, and this is going to be a mill and fill resurfacing, and then the concrete portions, they will fill and identify all the slabs, the distance between them, and rehab those. So this is another 95% paid by ODOT, 5% by us.
Okay, any questions from committee members? Council? Can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Last piece is a resolution declaring it necessary to improve Miller Road between the termini of Ridgewood Road and West Market Street by resurfacing and declaring an emergency. Mr. Little?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of committee. We're partnering with Fairlawn on this. This is an AMANS project. We will bid it. We will manage this project. This is basically a mill and fill of Miller Road. It's about a mile, just under a mile. I think it's 0.91 miles of roadway from the end of the expressway up to Market. So this project will probably start later this year.
Okay. All righty, any questions from committee members? Councilman Mallett?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Luddle. I was just looking, that most, what is that, the southernmost portion down by the highway is concrete there for a couple hundred feet.
Yeah,
Is that going to be done?
We won't do that. We're just resurfacing from the pavement change up to Market Street.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilman Lombardo?
Thank you. Mr. Lovell, how is this different than any other road resurfacing when we start that in the spring?
Well, we applied for funds through AMATS for this, so we're partnering with them, and we're partnering with Fairlawn. So typically, now we have partnered, and there'll be some areas maybe with Cuyahoga Falls we'll partner with, where they may contribute if our street is, if we're half ownership of each. But this is not in our regular resurfacing, no. This will be bid separately. This is kind of like what we did last year with all the stuff in the valley. That was a separate bid. We got other funds for that, and that project in the valley will start hopefully in about a month.
Okay.
Is it? Okay, what's your pleasure?
Consent's fine.
Okay, a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Seeing or hearing nothing coming before us, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Our next committee of the day is the Public Safety Committee meeting. Those committee members are Kamer, Mosley, Lombardo, Malik, and McKittrick. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I'd like to move forward and call a public safety meeting to order. Our last meeting was February 6th. Can I get approval of those meeting minutes, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Moving forward, we do have two old pieces on our agenda. Sarah, can you read in our first piece, please?
Sure. The first piece is a resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Horrigan of Beverly Richards, Tristan Reed, and Sean Peoples to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. Committee members, is there any questions or comments in regards to this piece of legislation? Any other council members that are joining us?
Mr. Chair, I can see that Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Kamer. I know we've discussed this a few times and really appreciate the thoughtful proposals that were made. I know we do have a number of folks in the audience. Do we want to offer those folks opportunity to maybe introduce themselves if they'd like to, since they came down?
Well, what I'll do is Gert Wellms, if she wants to recognize the three individuals on her piece of legislation from the mayor's office, she's more than welcome to.
Sir, if you don't mind, could I let the mayor introduce his candidates?
Yes,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just rise. First of all, let me take the time to hold you, not get up just yet. I want to take time to thank you for being part of this committee. I can't overstate its importance enough, I think, for the city, and I appreciate your willing to serve. So we do have Bev Richards and Tristan Reed and Sean Peoples, and if you hear, I appreciate your thoughtfulness in coming down today. So thanks again, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions or comments? Would we like to move forward with this?
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We'll present that this evening. All right, second piece. Sarah, could you read that in, please?
The second piece is a resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Donzella Aneskowitz, Amokai Akolo, Diane Lewis, Caitlin Castle, Robert Gippen, and Kemp Boyd to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
All right, thank you. Council members on the Public Safety Committee, any questions or comments? Councilman Malik?
Did you? No. You can go first.
You didn't have
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know we had some discussion about this at the end of our council meeting 2 weeks ago. And again, as with the applicants we just discussed, appreciate everyone for their willingness to serve. I want to thank the council committee that put forward the names. I know there's been some discussion about all of the applicants. I do think this is a really highly qualified group of people that offer a lot of diverse perspectives and diverse backgrounds. This is an advisory board. We want as many challenging and diverse perspectives as possible, and I hope we can move forward with all of these applicants.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate the comments. Any other questions or comments? Committee members? Non-committee members? All right, with that, I do know that this has been a piece that we've discussed here in the City Council chambers from the public and us personally, and I do know there's a substitute that can be read in, if Sarah is okay to read this in.
This is a substitute offered as an amendment, resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Donzella Aneskowitz, Renata Griffith Hambrick, Diane Lewis, Caitlin Castle, Robert Gippen, and Kemp Boyd to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
All right, thank you. So, committee members, any questions or comments?
So, wait a minute.
Councilman Malik.
Can the sponsors kind of discuss the substitute and why the substitute's put forward?
So this substitute's moving forward because there was some discussion and some concerns about one of the candidates that were selected on the slate that was brought forward a few weeks ago. So that's why this substitute's coming in. Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to be clear on the first resolution here, before the substitute comes in. I just wanted to rise and say that I'm not in support of the first resolution. Again, with some comments made on social media, I just don't think we should even come close to, saying anything negative about our safety forces. As you know, really, the whole issue 10 I wasn't in favor of, but since the voters have spoken and we're at this point, I agree with the mayor's appointments here, but on this resolution, I am not in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. Councilman, you spoke first. I'll call Councilman McKittrick.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I too want to thank everybody that we've interviewed in this, but again, I'm in agreement with Councilman Lombardo. I also feel that people are trying to make this something that is truly not, because initially we did have a group of people that were agreed upon until some issues were brought forth and we saw these issues, especially the comments that were made on social media. Recently, I don't know if anybody else has seen this, there's been some issues in the city of Columbus with their oversight board where they actually made a motion to remove somebody because of comments that were made. And I really don't want that to happen here where we may have to remove somebody. So as the first piece, I am not in favor of, but I am in favor of the amended piece. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I'll go to Councilwoman Mosley, because she hasn't spoke yet.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Kamer. I am in support of the first piece. I want to be clear about that. I am not in support of the second piece for one reason and one reason only, because the individual that some want to discredit meets and marks so many of the boxes in which we are requesting to sit on this review committee. And this is no disrespect to the other individuals who are mentioned at all, but it's not right. We can't say we want to move this city forward and we want to discount a young black man who's an attorney who marks all these boxes. And you're correct. Some are correcting people saying things that they shouldn't say, but we all should be given an opportunity to write that in the height of everything that has happened in this community with Jalen Walker and people's emotions running high, black and white. Just to discount someone because of a post who is willing to serve and give up their time to help move our city forward in the right positive direction, why wouldn't we want to give them a chance to do that? And so I don't want anyone who has decided to give up their time on this committee to think that I don't support you all, because I do, but I support Imokai too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman, appreciate that. I'm going to yield to, can you yield to Councilwoman Amobian? Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Councilwoman Mosley has said a lot of what I want to say, but I think we need to vote on the first piece first and state the reasons on the record why we are voting against this young man. And secondly, instead of bringing in another piece, I think we need to go back to the drawing board and interview other candidates. We do not have a young black man representative in that age range, which is so critical to this board. When you think about all of the killings that have happened at the hands of the police across this United States of America, and even in our own community, the ones that are impacted the most are young black men. We do not have one representative on this committee. So we will either go back to the drawing board, or I think you're going to have some real concerns from the community. And the other issue that we need to look at, folks, is that all the feedback I have gotten from the community is that the black elected officials on city council should have an opportunity to identify who they want to represent them. Madam President has agreed to accept this young man as her representative for her ward, and I can tell you that people are troubled by not realizing, not knowing many of the folks that are on this committee, and then the one that they know that they are closely related to in terms of age, the fact that he's come down to council repeatedly to assist with wanting to help people with evictions and all kinds of things, and not to speak of his credentials. He's an outstanding young man who has come back to our community to serve, and we're saying no to him. And we have no face that looks like him on this committee. We need to go back to the drawing board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I don't know who had their hand up first, but Councilman Neal.
Councilwoman Connor was before me.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Councilwoman Connor.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 9 positions on this board, and we're only fighting for one young black male. If we wanted more, why don't we have more? And to move forward, maybe now is not the right time for him specifically, but someone else. And he could apply again in 2 years. We're going to refill positions. But as long as we keep arguing, we're not moving forward with the project that we've all held dear. And as far as equal representation, look, we can already talk about 6 and 10 not having anybody. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Back to Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like Councilwoman Amobi has stated, I'd like to have a clear understanding of why there's opposition against the MOCI. I'd like to know what posts concern members on council, because I can think of votes on legislation by members of this council over the years, and especially this year, that have been, I'm going to say acts of, almost acts of violence against our community by purposely not passing legislation to address violence in our community and not presenting, like was done today, any substitute legislation to address the violence. This body did not pass legislation, voted down legislation that would address one of the major concerns in this city, gun violence. No substitute has come in, but yet you're going to vote on a young man who has given of service, offered service, you're going to vote against him? The legislative violence, the documentation of legislative practices in this body, disrespecting a certain segment of our community, is well documented. It's on our YouTube, and we can pull the different pieces of legislation that have shown many of the members who have opposition against the MOCI, how they voted against policies that would have improved the quality of life and addressed issues in our community that this young man comes from. So I want to get clarification, because, you know, we've had, I heard my colleague talk about arguing. This is not arguing. This is what debate is about. And we've got to flesh out just the racist practices within our legislative body. I'm just going to say it just like that. Because like I said, we brought in legislation to deal with many of the issues that impact segments of our community. No substitute comes in, you just vote them down. Just vote them straight down, no substitute. So please, I want to get clarification on what are the issues that make members of this legislative body so suspect against this young man. Again, one who has given of his service to this city. And then we could come back to this. Why, since it's so important to bring a substitute for this, when we voted down addressing gun violence, when we voted down addressing, even educating this body about equity so they could better address policies that impact segments of our community, voted down, no substitute comes in. Please explain to me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. Council President Somerville.
Mr. Chair, I will defer to Councilwoman Holland. She had her hand up first.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Madam President.
Sorry about that, Councilwoman. I've been holding my eyes to the TV.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
There's a lot going on today. I want to begin by making it very clear, in case my contribution to the debate on February 13th, I believe, didn't make it clear. I fully support the candidacy of Mr. Okolo for this board. Now, to be very succinct about this, this is an individual who is qualified by any available metric, including that he holds a view and a range of experiences and an identity within this community that makes his voice not only relevant, but deeply, deeply significant to the task at hand. And now, I feel I need to say, from the perspective of somebody who cares deeply about process, over and over and over again, I've made this clear, that I find it deeply cynical that we would introduce, simultaneous to a discussion about the original proposed resolution concerning the 6 council proposed members of this board, that we would introduce at the same time a second substitute. I just feel that this is the height of cynicism. I think I come at this in a very similar way to my colleagues who've already addressed this, but maybe there's a twist to it, and perhaps it can be partially addressed this way. I would suggest that if it is his desire that this individual, who is so qualified and such a valuable contributing member of our community, be given an opportunity to address the stated concerns before this body right now, if it is his desire to do so. I would also suggest that it's time that we really face what exactly it is we are thinking about and talking about as we deliberate about this. This is new. Change is scary. Change is often the only way forward. Now, this is an historic moment. We've never been here before, and I strongly suggest that we take a moment here and offer Mr. Okolo, whose life and whose dignity is very much at stake in this moment, and offer him a chance to respond. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Back to Councilwoman President Somerville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I first want to begin by thanking all of the Akron residents who applied to be a part of the Citizens Review. And I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, I stand 100% behind and beside the individuals that we have brought forth in our first and original piece of legislation, and Imokai Okolo, who was a part of that. I'm disheartened because I'm feeling as if we're missing a real opportunity here. A real opportunity to really address the needs and really build a meaningful and intentional better relationships between police and community. And the fact that we are going to let this opportunity potentially go by, it saddens me. But I'm going to say that, and I'm also upset. I'm upset in terms of how this charter was written. The charter has flaws. The charter is making it difficult for us to make sure that this Citizens Review Board is truly representative of our community. And a board that is truly representative of our community has someone around the table by the name of Imokai. So, for the record, I just want to stand and say that I fully support Imokai being a part of this board. It saddens me too, because this should be an exciting day for the candidates who have made it through the process, who are willing to volunteer a lot of their time to get this board off of the ground. And yet this is the discussions that we're having. So I just want to put that out there for the record.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate those comments. Okay. Councilman Malik, then Councilwoman Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is beyond embarrassing. This substitute wasn't brought in the last minute. It was brought in after the last minute. I received the substitute at 2:30, which is 15 minutes after this meeting started. The substitute is not available online right now, and we're going to vote on it in a few minutes. And so we have a few minutes to make up our minds. When the original names were online and public for weeks and weeks, and they were the folks who are originally recommended by the Committee of Council. It's incredibly embarrassing. And in the newspaper today, front page of the newspaper, there is an article that talks about the views of the public. And Dr. John Green and a whole bunch of very smart folks put together this poll. And they had two big takeaways. They had a lot of takeaways, but there are two big ones. That people think this board is very important and critical to safety in our community, and that people often don't feel heard by city government. And my colleague, Councilwoman Holland, and others have spoken to the fact that Mr. Okolo is very well qualified. He really could be doing anything, anywhere in the world. He works for one of the most preeminent law firms in the world, and yet he is here in Akron trying to make a difference, and some of his views make us uncomfortable. Some of his views make me uncomfortable. But as long as we put our heads in the sand, we will continue to struggle in building trust with our community, and we will continue to struggle in creating safety in our community.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Mosley, then Councilman Fusco.
To piggyback off what Councilman Malik said, I have it up right here. Mine came in at 229. Public safety starts at 215. And this is why the city and the residents who live here have no faith in this body right here. They have no faith in us on the 3rd floor or the 2nd floor because of stuff just like this. It's wrong. It's disrespectful, not just to Amokai. It's disrespectful to all the others who have lent of their time, treasure, and talent to want to serve. But you get to see us in live living color. This is your city council. This is your city council. This is how we function. And they wonder why the residents are sick and tired. I'm sick and tired and I sit here.
Thank you. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you, Chairman Kamer. I too, as was mentioned by President Somerville, I want to thank all those individuals, over 100 who applied, willing to serve our community. I want to thank them because this task before them is Herculean. It is going to be huge. They're going to have to design the way they even do business. And you know, I will say, I'm not going to talk about the first one. It's procedurally, you know, when our substitute is brought in, which they're brought in all the time, oftentimes right before a city council meeting, there's substitutes that are brought in. And procedurally, that's the way it goes. But I understand, you know, and you can smile all you want, Mr. Malik, but the thing of it is, this is the way business is done. I support Mr. Kamer's substitute. It was mentioned not long ago that the designers of issue 10 required 9 votes because they wanted to bring council together to form a consensus around who is going to serve. Okay. I think with all the discussions that have been made, you know, these last several weeks, that there's not a consensus. There's not a consensus. They required 9 votes. That's what the designers of issue 10 did. They put in 9 votes by this city council. That number cannot be reached. And so therefore, this, the substitute, I believe, can be passed with the 9 or better. And I understand that's why it was brought in. It's our obligation today, for those individuals who may not be aware, but today's our deadline. We have to do something today, not tomorrow, but today. Okay. So there's no waiting. There's no, you know, and I understand, you know, that there's you know, a desire to maybe, you know, take some more time, look at some more people. We can't. We just can't. This, as I think Mr. Kamer mentioned, this will evolve. It's going to evolve. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning of the process. The votes are not here. Mr. Kamer. You did the responsible thing, and that is complying with what is currently on our charter, in our charter. And we have to comply, and we have to get 9 votes. The votes just weren't there. And I will tell you that I met with Mr. Amokai, and he is a very impressive individual. Agreed. I believe that there's a space and a place, and that I'm hoping one day that this council can come together and support that. But unfortunately, right now, it's just not there. But again, this is just the beginning. There's so much road to travel on this, and there's so much work needs to be done, and I wish nothing but luck and support for those individuals who will be doing this work, not only with this first seated commission, but those in the future, because they are going to be under a lot of stress and pressure. They certainly will. And again, this is just the beginning. And as mentioned, support the substitute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll go to Councilwoman Amobian, then I'll go to Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This legislation for the first recommended candidate is not available to be moved because council members, you're choosing not to do it. So don't make it sound as if it's a Herculean task that's out of your control. It is within your control to pass this. And if those of us around the horseshoe know this young man, we've articulated to you that his views when he did whatever on his Facebook were probably the views of many African Americans in this city at the time Jalen Walker was murdered by the police. So I don't know why you keep making it sound as if down the road something else is going to happen. I'm not really sure that something else will be. All I know is that we have an outstanding candidate in Attorney Amokai Okolo, who is a son of ours who's grown up in our community, in our school district, who has gone away and accomplished much and has done extremely well, has come back home to serve, and we are choosing not to. Make sure we understand that word. We are choosing not to appoint him to this committee. It's not like it is something out of our control. It's within our control to put him on this committee. And you talk about 9 votes. You may not have 9 votes for your piece that you're bringing in. So we have a problem here, folks, of our own choosing. And so we need to make sure we understand that. And if we are out of compliance with the law, and remember, the charter amendment was passed by 62% of the voters. So unless these people are terribly ignorant, they read the legislation and they understood it when they voted for it. And I don't think you have 62% of our citizens that are ignorant to what they voted for. They voted for a piece of legislation for us to appoint people to an independent body to provide oversight over our police department so that we won't have another murder like Jalen Walker was. So just keep in mind that we are making a choice here, council members. It is not something that's out of your control. And this young man is more than qualified, more than competent. And you're forgetting one thing. He will only have 1 vote for anything that comes before this body. It's not like he's going to run roughshod over anybody on that committee. I mean, based on what I saw when we interviewed these folks, we have really accomplished, competent, articulate, independent thinking folks who we have appointed. So there's no way that Amokai Okolo could do anything that would be harmful. And I hate to say this, but the FOP shouldn't have anything to do with this, folks. Nothing at all. This should be a citizens advisory board appointed by this body to carry on the work of independent looking at the work when we have infractions and concerns about the policies and things of the police department. So I'm deeply troubled by all these comments as if we're doing something that's a Herculean task when it's not. You know, those of us who are intelligent, competent, able to think through this and realize what we voted for issue 10 by 62%. And if we choose to suggest an amendment to include all boards having a representative, perhaps that could be looked at down the road. But in terms of wanting to pass this evening, I'm sorry, folks, I'm not going to be on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Howland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Councilwoman Amobian covered several of the points that I would have raised, and I'd like to echo what she had to say here. I would only add, to bring it to a fine point, that in November of this past year, the voters spoke, and much as we in the law like to say that the jury has spoken, in November, the city of Akron spoke and made it unequivocal and entirely clear that the desire was to have citizens, not city council, not the police department, no other body, but the citizens of the city of Akron available to review the decisions around policing in the city of Akron. Now, you know, certainly not the intention, but I think that inadvertently the requirement of a supermajority for the council's recommended selections has oddly given council, in my humble opinion, too much power. That this is, interestingly, a deadlock, which is coming down now really to what it shouldn't, because this is not a jury. This is not a jury that we're talking about. We're not looking for something that amounts to a declaration of this or that. What we're looking for is an expanse of viewpoint and experience and perception. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to you, but we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And it is essential for this Citizens Oversight Board to succeed that we bring all kinds of eyes and all kinds of views to this, even those with which we disagree, arguably especially those with which we are unfamiliar, with which we might think we disagree, but really don't, because guess what? It's not our business, okay? The Citizens Oversight Board is established by the voters for one purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I appreciate that. I'll make a couple comments before I call on any other colleagues. But, you know, I stood here 2 weeks ago, and I did say that I supported Omokai originally during the process downstairs on the second floor. And he's very intelligent and has a very impressive background. So I did support him originally. And then it came out about a social media post. And then one of my colleagues, and we're never talking about this, one of my colleagues, we were going to replace Omokai with someone else because he didn't live in Ward 5, he lived in Ward 3. So we had a last-minute interview of another candidate, and but somehow that conversation is never discussed here. But like I said, I just want to make those comments because I originally supported Omokai. And then my decision changed, what I learned. So with that, anything else before we move on? Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The comment was made that this is the way business is done, and I just want to put my finger on it. That is precisely the problem here. And the reality is that we have to be willing to do business differently. And, you know, the point was also made that the first piece of legislation does not have 9 votes. The way that we find that out is by voting on it. If folks are uncomfortable voting on it, right, I understand that there's an election coming up, right, but that's how this works, right? People should be willing to vote yes or no, take tough votes. And then if there aren't 9 votes, because I I believe there should be a consensus among council, and if there's not, then that's fine, and we can move on to another set of folks, again, who we will vote on momentarily, and who I think we will all support. But it's incredibly cynical, and we can only lose people's faith so many times. So, you know, we're not going to vote on the first piece. We're going to vote on the substitute. I don't have anything against the people on that list, but this is incredibly unfortunate how this is working.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Neal, then Nancy Howland. Councilwoman Howland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One, you know, this isn't the first time that we've had legislation brought in after. So I'd like for us to take time, to take time to look at our rules, because who authorized the legislation to come in? That's one. That's a separate conversation. But you know, I talked about, and I appreciate my colleague, Councilman Malik, addressing the issue. This is how we always do things. Folks, that's a safeguard to protect institutional practices. That's a safeguard to protect institutional practices. Today it's a Mokai. You know what it was last year when we were voting? It was Judge Williams. There were members of this council who stood against naming Lawton Street Community Center after Judge James R. Williams. You always come up with an excuse. Like I said, the data is there on this council and its practices. So, to act like, as Councilwoman Amobian said, this is some Herculean task. No, this is just showing the true colors of this council. Let's just be honest. And so, I agree, let's take the vote, let's see where people stand, and we'll move from there.
Thank you, Councilwoman Howland. We're conducting a meeting, sir. Go ahead, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Howland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Although I am not a member of the Standing Public Safety Committee, I would like to suggest that perhaps the chair could entertain a motion to permit Mr. Okolo to respond to those issues that have been raised.
Councilman Kamer, I can make that motion if it's, you know, within reason. I'll make that motion.
You should have let me think a little longer. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'll make that motion for Mr. Okolo to have an opportunity to speak.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
I'll say aye. I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna say 1 minute. If that's Sarah, 1 minute. So we can continue our business here and move forward, because the topic is him, so I'll vote in favor of that. So, Mr. Amokai, please step up, and if you don't mind, I would like to have 1 minute, please. I appreciate you.
1 minute's a tough task there, Councilman Kamer. I think it's, is it on? Hear me? Well, one thing I want you all to know is that I do love this city, right? Unfortunately today, days like today make that a little tougher to say, but I do genuinely love this city. You know, I think my background, my professional background, my educational background, all of that shows that I have the ability to be objective, right? I have done this very thing that you're asking this committee and this council, this Citizens Review Board to do. I've done it before, right? And I've shown that I can be objective, right? I've worked alongside law enforcement at so many capacities ever since I was in high school, right? And I have shown that objectivity every step of the way. There's no situation in which I don't hate all police officers. I don't think all police officers are bad. I don't have this sort of bias that's not going to allow me to be able to see things objectively and clearly. I have the ability to do that, right? I'm an attorney. That's half the battle, right? And why folks can't see that, why folks don't see that, to me, I'm very confused. You know, one social media post does not define who I am as an individual. I am 27 years old, and I have gone through high school in this district. I have gone to college. I have obtained a law degree. And it's not a lack of humility, but I am truly an exceptional applicant, right? I'd ask anyone, even my age, people in my group, to show a resume that is that much better than my own, right? That don't show the same qualifications that I have. You're asking young people to come into this city, to grow up and learn in this city, and to be able to give back to this city, and now you're not allowing the opportunity to do that. I can show you countless of mentors that I've had across this city, at the University of Akron, at Firestone High School, at the House of the Lord. All these individuals have reached out to me so happy that I am on here, and they can tell you and express to you that yes, I might have different views than their own, I might have different views than you all, but I can be objective. This sort of passion I have, this love I have for this city is needed at this table. To not have a young black man at the seat at this table to have this conversation is truly a slap in the face to me and the rest of my community. What do you want us to do? You ask us to be a part of the solution, and we want to be a part of that solution, then you say no. You slam a door in our face and you say one social media post defines you. One social media post says that you're not allowed to be in this room anymore. But that doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm asking you, what do you want? What am I supposed to do? What are people in my age range supposed to do? Yet we look at the institution of policing differently because I was born in 1995. Right? In the 8th grade, I saw Trayvon Martin get gunned down in the middle of the street, right? And since then, I have been seeing black men across this country, in this very city, be gunned down by police. And then you wonder why someone may have a different opinion of your own than policing, right? Jalen Walker was my age. We are the same exact age. It could have been me, right? And I can look at this situation objectively and tell you, and give you a result that is objective and as rooted in truth, right? I come here today to speak truth to power. This is absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd.
I'm okay, I'm gonna have to end, and hey, I gave you almost 3 minutes. So thank you, thank you, and I agree with some of my colleagues, so. All right, moving forward, would we like to, sir, please, we're conducting a meeting here. Moving forward. Can I move forward with a potential vote here?
You're not allowing it. You're not allowing it. You're not allowing it.
I need a motion. Can I get a motion?
Before you take this vote, please let me.
Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for suspension of the rules with the favorable report for the amendment.
We have a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report from Councilman McKittrick. Can I get a second? I have a motion with a favorable report. Can I get a second? For the substitute, yes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Nay.
All right, roll call.
Kamer,
Aye.
Mosley,
Nay.
Lombardo,
Aye.
Malik,
Nay.
McKittrick.
Aye.
The motion passes 3-2.
All right, thank you. So moving forward, we have 2 new pieces of legislation in front of us. Our first piece is authorizing the purchasing agent, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the purchase of protective helmets and face shields for police officers and declare an emergency. And I see we have our Deputy Mayor of Public Safety with us, Tucker, and Captain McCosey.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm going to defer to Captain McCosey.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We'd like your support to purchase helmets for our patrol personnel. This is to replace helmets that they currently have, which are about 30 years old. We're really not sure. Those helmets were purchased before. Many of us were hired on with the police department. They are old. Some of them are no longer serviceable. The shields for the face guards can no longer be purchased to be replaced. And so we're asking for this legislation to go ahead with accepting the bid of the company that will provide these at a reasonable cost, and this will be funded through a grant.
All right, thank you, Captain. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councilman Lombardo.
So this is an ordinance to send that out for bids?
Yes, this was put out for public bid, and this was the best bid. It was not the lowest, it was the lowest that met all the specifications of the bid.
Okay, unless I'm missing it, the turnaround time for the delivery of the helmets?
We believe that they can deliver in about 90 days.
About 90 days, okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? Council members not on the committee? All right, what's your pleasure? Consent okay?
We are asking to move forward as quickly as possible, suspension of the rules if
All right.
Motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, Captain, I appreciate that. Moving on to our next piece, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Pierce Manufacturing Incorporated and Atlantic Emergency Solutions for the purchase of one fire pumper and declare an emergency. And I do see we have District Chief Caught here, and obviously Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Tucker.
Again, I'm going to defer to District Chief Cow. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Committee Chairman, committee members. Yes, the Fire Division is requesting approval to enter into a contract for the purchase of a new fire engine. This is a Pierce fire pumper from Atlantic Emergency Systems. This will provide an upgrade to our current frontline fleet of fire engines with newer equipment. This engine will be slated for either Station 3 on the near west side on Maple Street or Station 13 in Firestone Park. These take about 12 to 15 months to manufacture, so we'll be continuing to evaluate which station is in need of it most when that comes closer to being delivered. And another good result of this will, the rig that is replaced will be removed to reserve status, and then that will help us remove about a 30-year-old rig that is currently in service as a reserve unit. So this will help us with not only our frontline fleet, but also our reserve fleet also. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, thank you. Committee members, any questions or comments? Any other committee member, council members? All right. Oh, Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I'm more familiar with Station 7. So they have truck L7 or ladder 7?
Station 7 has, yes, ladder 7 and engine 7 and medic 7.
So how does this fire pumper differ from that one, or?
It'll be pretty much the same.
Same,
We strive for consistency throughout the station or throughout the city, unless there's a requirement for hazardous materials response. But typically, most of the fire engines are consistent. That provides consistency for our maintenance personnel to work on them, and also our firefighters as they move about to different stations on a daily basis. They're familiar with each rig.
Okay, so it has the same features unless there's obviously new technology.
And we have engine 7 should be coming in, brand new engine 7 this year. We ordered that last year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? All right, what's your pleasure?
Suspension of rules,
Suspension of
please.
rules. All right.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We'll present that this evening. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. We're adjourned.
Our next committee of the day is the Health and Social Services Committee. Those committee members are Amobian, Freeman, Baylor, Neal, and Holland. If we could give everyone just a moment here to change seats and get their video started. Thank you so much.
Hi, Mike. Hey, Linda.
Okay, Madam Chair, we don't have all members present yet, but we do have a quorum if you would like to get started. I know we're running a little behind today. Sorry about that.
That would be fine. When you say we do have a quorum? This is the Health and Social Services line. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking budget and finance. It's Governor Manadar. All right, I'll be back on. No, you're on this committee too, remember?
Okay. Thank you for your patience. We do have all members present now.
Okay. Let's do a roll call just so we have it on the record.
Sure. Amobian.
Present.
Freeman.
Present.
Baylor.
Present.
Neal.
Here.
Holland.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
Okay. I'd like to call the Health and Social Services Committee meeting to order. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, please?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second. Move that second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have one piece coming before us today. Sir, will you read that, please, because I can't see it on my small phone.
Sure. This is a resolution declaring the month of March 2023 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the city of Akron to raise awareness about developmental disabilities in the local community and to recognize and celebrate the many individuals, families, agencies, and community partners that contribute to continue to strive to give affected individuals the full benefits of citizenship and declaring an emergency.
I understand we have a guest. Is she present in the house?
We do. We have Lisa Kemlowski, Summit County DD Superintendent here.
Hello, Lisa. I'm on Zoom, but I can see your image. I just want to thank you for bringing this to our attention as to what I started to sit through that previous discussion. But I want you to know that we are all on board with this legislation. I can tell you that. I know the good work that you and your employees are doing, particularly Darian, I know she has a new name, Riley. We have a committee that meets monthly, and I know they just started a new program with the Akron Municipal Court System to help your customers and a lot of the other great work you're doing. So I will turn it over to you so you can just kind of brag about what you're doing and the reason we need to celebrate March as a month to recognize those with developmental disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Amobian, and thank you, members of Council, Health and Social Services Committee. My name is Lisa Kamlowski. I'm the superintendent of the Summit County Board of Developmental Disabilities. Thank you for your recognition of Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. March nationally is recognized as DD Awareness Month to highlight and raise awareness of both the needs as well as the incredible gifts that people with developmental disabilities bring to our community. It's a time for me to come to communities like the city of Akron to thank employers in our community who have said yes to hiring an individual with a disability to work at their business alongside a typical worker. I'm here to say thank you to the many daycare centers in the city of Akron who have opened their doors to welcome a child with a disability to receive child care alongside his or her typical peers and children in the neighborhood. I want to say thank you to local organizations, local dance studios, swim clubs, and camps for working with Summit DD to include children and adults with disabilities in community activities that we all enjoy. Locally, March 6th is what we call Inclusion Day. Again, this year we are pleased to announce a partnership with the Akron Zoo. March 4th, 5th, and 6th, the Akron Zoo is offering free admission to anyone wearing orange. Orange is the color of inclusion. Our staff will be there offering free developmental screenings as well. And again, I want to take this opportunity to thank the council and the city of Akron for all of your many partnerships with Summit ED and people with disabilities in our community. Thank you.
And again, thank you for all the wonderful work that you and your staff are doing each and every day. I think I read somewhere a long time ago that individuals with developmental disabilities can be some of the greatest employees you can have in terms of dependability, carrying out their duties, and I know this to be factual from my own observations. So what we know about Akron is that there's a place for all of our citizens, and we thank you for caring for them. I'm sure there are other comments from other council members. Can we see hands, Sarah?
Yes, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Holland has her hand raised here in chambers.
Please, Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So this is awkward, trying to speak into the microphone, but also look at you, Lisa, when I tell you how much I appreciate your agency and your work. Part of the beauty of our world is our opportunity to be together in all of our glorious diversity and differences. And your agency is one that I've been aware of for many, many years, first through my work with Children's Services. And as a mother, and now as a grandmother, I just can't say enough about the many lives you touch and the many aspects of the work you do and how critical it is to create and maintain and protect the beautiful community that we have here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any others?
Mr. Neal has his...
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to join you and Councilwoman Holland in saying thank you for the service that they provide. I have a couple godbrothers who are serviced by the agency, and I just know that connecting them to job opportunities and seeing the pride and dignity that they have to be able to have a job and go to work because of the services provided, I just want to say thank you. Because I see how it adds to their quality of life.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept this piece? And with suspension of the rules, please. Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
With the favorable. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Ms. Kamlowski, am I pronouncing it right, Lisa?
Kamlowski.
Kamlowski. We will be voting on this tonight with all of our colleagues, and you're welcome to come back tonight at 7 o'clock. Or if you don't, just know that you have strong supporters down here in this horseshoe. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I think that's the only thing we have. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. No further business before the committee. We are adjourned.
Our final committee meeting of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Freeman, Amobian, Malik, Baylor, and Lombardo. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we will call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order. Excuse me. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, please?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We have one resolution coming before us. This is a resolution expressing opposition to Ohio General Assembly House Bill 1, bill which would flatten Ohio's income tax down to a single rate, resulting in a significant loss of revenue to schools and local governments, and declaring an emergency. And who we have speaking for us today on this?
I'm happy to, as a sponsor, Mr. Freeman, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Thank you. This is known as House Bill Number 1, and it would drastically change the way Ohio taxes. I believe there's a flat tax that's proposed for the income side, and there's also a proposal that is, whereas the assessment rate is going to be changed from 35% to 31.5%, and that's going to have a tremendous impact in terms of those entities that rely on the real estate tax side of things. So that's problematic. From what I understand, on the evaluation side, we could stand to possibly lose about $3.2 million annually. That's what I've been told, that's what I understand. They spoke a little bit about the rainy day fund and did a little bit of research on that piece of it. And what this would do possibly is, there's forecasted to be $3.4 billion. Right now, they've been stable about $2.7 billion in the state of Ohio's rainy day fund. And so that is also, back in 2010, 12, even up to 2014, the state budget was impacted by the recession, as well as everyone's budget. That was about the time whenever the local government fund was hit hardest. This, in all likeliness, will impact that as well, the local government fund, if this is passed successfully by the General Assembly. So this is just putting us on notice that, we're opposing this House Bill number 1, and it's, again, it's flatten Ohio's income tax down to a single rate. There's a number of moving parts in this, and I'm happy to share some of the documentation. If council, if the committee would like to report out tonight, that's fine. If they want to take a little bit more time, that's fine too. I don't see this changing. I don't know if Mr. Fricker's been watching this one too, but like a desire to move quickly on this from the Ohio General Assembly, I don't think there is. So if we want to take a week's time or a couple, whatever, to further study it, but it just seems as though it will definitely have a negative impact, like I said, in a big way. There's one quote that I want to share, if I can find it here. Excuse me. I have it here somewhere. I know I can find it. Please forgive me. The Ohio, the speaker, his comments basically are this, and that is Stevens, the speaker for the Ohio House, on Bill number 1, and that is, now the problem is for local governments. Those automatic increases that have come over the years with inflating values are going to have to come from either votes of the voter or other ways of dealing with that. So it's we've seen this obviously from the state government time and again. It's whereas, like, you guys worry about yourselves, and this is going to evolve. It's basically pushing it down to and putting it on us. And the flat tax that they're talking about it's going to have a minimal. It won't have a big impact on those, obviously, who don't make a lot. I think there's a threshold of about 25,000 or so, but though the flat tax, just think what that's going to do, though, to those millionaires out there who are making tremendous amounts of money. The amount of their liability will be diminished, obviously, because it's going to be reduced. I don't know, Mr. Fricker, if you have any comments or not.
I think you pretty much covered it. As Councilman Fusco stated, the direct impact on the city of Akron would probably be about $3.2 million. This represents the rollback tax that we receive from the state of Ohio that makes up for the reduction that's given to property taxpayers within the city of Akron. So, $3.2 million would probably represent about 40 employees for the city of Akron that we would not be able to fund if that reduction took place.
Mr. Fusco, on this House Bill 1, what's the time they're looking at? This is a ways off, I assume.
I think it is. I've not read anything. It seems, in terms of the timing that they're proposing on it, I'm guessing it will take a little bit of time. Like I said, I think we could have a week or two. I'm good with that. That's the desire, of the committee. Because it seems like there's going to be some negotiation back and forth on this. There is quite a few moving parts to it. Not only the real estate tax, there is some questions about TIFs. From what I've been told, or from what I've read, I'm sorry, the homestead exemption will be impacted. Owner occupied, that 2.5% rollback, that's up for debate. But it will definitely, from what we understand with this, it will impact the local government fund. I don't think that's been calculated yet in terms of the local government fund, is it?
I mean, it would depend on, the local government fund is a percentage of the state general revenues that come in. So it's the sales tax and income tax that the state collects. It's a percentage of that.
So if it's going to be reduced, it's obvious to
come in. Yeah.
If it's going to be reduced, it's obvious to think that it's going to hit us from the local government fund piece. So I just thought it'd be prudent for council just to kind of be on the record for this one.
Yeah, and then we're reminded too, the last 8 or 10 years, Columbus cut us by about $5 million when the death tax was done away with. I think it cost, I think it was about $5 million a year that cost us.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Logan, I see your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do they try to give any kind of reasonable rationale for this stupid move?
I can't answer that. I think that there's been a desire in the State House for a flat tax. I think that's a Republican kind of, I think that some folks out there would love to see this because it's more income for those that make more than those that don't. So I think there's been talk about this over the years.
That's so ridiculous. If they're going to cut taxes for anybody, it should be at the other end. But I saw Councilman Mallett's hand. I don't know if he has a more thoughtful way of trying to explain this.
Okay, I did not see Councilman Mallett's hand. I'm going to assume that it's up, and I will call on Mr. Mallett.
No, I thought he was trying to respond to me, Mr. Chair. That's why.
Okay, very good.
Unfortunately, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Mobian, I'm sorry to let you down, but I think this is something we can all get behind, so I was just going to make a motion if that's appropriate. So I'd make a motion for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Okay, we have a motion on the
second.
We have a second. A motion and a second. All in favor of this resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, very good. We'll bring that before us this evening. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and that'll be something for all of us to keep our eyes on. And I think we do that, but we have anything else coming before us, do we, Sarah?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, then. We will call ourselves adjourned at 3:28 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.